Hi guys, today we're gonna be talking about subtracting money. We're gonna practice how to subtract money, and also we're gonna practice when do we need to subtract money when solving word problems or math stories. So let's practice with a few examples. We're gonna start with some problem solving, then we're gonna do some subtraction exercises, and we're gonna finish with another problem that we're gonna practice how to solve it. So the first problem says, Billy has $60.95. Amy has $25.40. How much more money does Billy have than Amy? Now, a lot of people, as soon as they see the word more, they quickly think that we need to add to solve this math story. But when it says how much more, is actually comparing both amounts. And every time we compare, we find the difference between the two numbers, so we need to subtract. So remember this clue, right? Every time it says how much more in the question altogether, and then you see the word then, that means that you're comparing the two amounts. These three words together in the question always tells you that you need to subtract and not add, even if it says more, because we're not joining amounts together. We need to find out what is the difference between the two amounts. So we subtract. Always the greater number goes first when we're subtracting. We write the dollar sign. So it's $60.95. That's the amount Billy has, minus $25.40. Remember that we always start with the first digit to the right. In this case, we always start with the cents. 5 minus 0 equals 5. 9 minus 4 equals also 5. Always bring down the decimal point. 0 minus 5. So 0 is less than 5. So that means that I need to borrow, because right now I cannot subtract like that. So the 6 becomes a 5 and the 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 5 equals 5. And 5 minus 2 equals 3. And never forget that when we're talking about money, you have to write the dollar sign always. So that means that Billy has $35.55 more than Amy. Remember that this is only the process to find the answer to the question. You have to answer the question in a complete sentence. In the next example, Maria had $20.50. She bought a pair of mittens for $15. How much money she had left? Again, we have to look for the clues that tells us if we need to add or subtract. In this case, they're telling us how much money she had at the beginning, but they're also telling us that she spent that money. She spent part of that money because she bought the mittens for $15. Also in the question is asking us how much money she had left. I'm sorry with this. Okay, this is how much change she's gonna get after she pays for the mittens. So again, the greater number goes first. $20.50 minus $15. Zero minus 0 is 0. 5 minus 0 is 5. Bring down the decimal point. Again, 0 is less than 5, so we need to borrow or regroup. You can write over the 0 and write a 10, or just put a 1 beside it to make it look like a 10. 10 minus 5 equals 5. And 1 minus 1 equals 0. In this case, we do not need to write a 0 because we already have a digit in the dollar part of my number. Bring down the dollar sign. So her change, or she had left $5.50. Maria had $5.50 left. Remember that the question helped us a lot to write the complete sentence to answer it. In the next example, Molly had $22.75. She bought a school bag and had 30 cents left. How much did Molly pay for the school bag? In this case is backwards from the previous example. They're telling us how much money she had at the beginning and the change she got after she bought the school bag. So we need to find out, what did she pay for the school bag? Again, it's subtraction. So she had $22.75. To that, we subtract the 30 cents. Remember to write that 0 in the dollar part of the number, 30 cents. Even though it has the dollar sign, since there are no dollars, we say the word cents. Remember that. 5 minus 0 is 5. 7 minus 3 equals 4. Bring down the decimal point. 2 minus 0 is 2. And since we don't have any digit under that 2, we just bring it down with the dollar sign. That means that the school bag cost $22.45. Now, remember that when we subtract numbers, it is important that all the digits be aligned, including the decimal point. If the decimal point is aligned, all the other digits fall into place. And we always start with from the right. 6 minus 1 equals 5. In this case, 5 is less than 6, so we need to borrow or regroup. 15 minus 6 equals 9. Bring down the decimal point. And 1 minus 1 equals 0. In this case, because we're talking about dollars and cents, we have to write that 0 in the dollar space. 1 minus 6 is not enough, right? So we need to regroup. The 1 becomes a 0, and the other 1 becomes an 11. Remember, even if this is already less than the bottom digit, you regroup. You just continue regrouping as long as you need it. 11 minus 6 equals 5. 0 minus 3. 0 is not enough to subtract 3, so we regroup again. The 9 becomes an 8, and that 0 becomes a 10. Remember, it's not a 1 anymore because we borrowed. 10 minus 3 equals 7. Bring down the decimal point. And 8 minus 5 equals 3. So the difference is $3.75. It's the same process even if the numbers are larger. It has more, even if they have more digits. But let's practice. 6 minus 2 equals 4. 4 minus 2 equals 2. Bring down the decimal point. 1 is less than 6, so we need to borrow or regroup. The 6 becomes a 5, and the 1 becomes an 11. 11 minus 6 equals 5. And since we don't have anything under that 5, we just bring it down. with the dollar sign. We can never forget to write that dollar sign. So the difference is $55.24. So what is the difference if we subtract $49.84 minus $27.93? Again, always start from the right. 4 minus 3 equals 1. 8 is less than 9, so we need to regroup. The 9 becomes an 8, and this 8 becomes 18. 18 minus 9 equals 9. Bring down the decimal point. 8 minus 7 equals 1. And 4 minus 2 equals 2. So the difference is $21.91. In the last example for today, we have a receipt. Just imagine that we went to Lily's fruit stand and these are the fruits that we bought. And if you pay with a $20 bill, how much change will you receive? So before we can answer that question, we need to find out the total amount of money that we spend on Lily's fruit stand. So what do we do to find out the total? We need to add, right? So our first step in this case, we need to add all these amounts to find out how much we're gonna spend for the fruit before we can find out how much change we're gonna get. So we can add right here. So we know the total. 1 plus 0 plus 4 equals 5. 1 plus 0 plus 8 equals 9. Bring down the decimal point. 4 plus 2 equals 6. And 6 plus 3 equals 9. So the total amount spent is $9.95. But we're not done yet. Remember that we need to find out how much change we're going to receive. So now we can subtract. We subtract $20. Remember that if you write it like this, it still says $20. But because we're subtracting an amount that had cents, we need to add the 2 zeros in the cents place. Minus $9.95. Let's fix this. Remember, try to align the decimal point and all the digits as best as possible. Now, we need to subtract across zeros. This 0 cannot subtract 5, so we need to borrow. But the neighbor is also a 0. So we need to keep looking until we find a digit that we can borrow from. This 2 becomes a 1. But we remember that we cannot give it to the 0. We have to go in order until every digit has something to subtract from. This 0 becomes a 10. But remember, we still need to keep regrouping, so it becomes a 9. Again, this one becomes a 10. But since this one also needs to regroup, it becomes a 9. And the last 0 becomes 10. Now everybody has something to subtract from. So we start. 10 minus 5 equals 5. 9 minus 9 equals 0. Bring down the decimal point. 9 minus 9 is 0. And this 1, we just bring it down because there's nothing to subtract. That means that we receive $10.05 as change. My change will be $10.05. This is all for today, guys, so I hope to see you soon.